Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and first of all, I just want to apologize for voice. I'm a bit sick, but otherwise, I wanted to get another video out about the Spectral Throw cold dex stacking thing because I wanted to show off the Simulacrum action and just a bit more boss killing shit, and I did play the character for another day, taking it to 96.5 or so, because it's been a lot of fun, and I have been actually thoroughly enamored with the resurgence of Spectral Throw here. Honestly, I'm a bit ashamed that I had discounted Spectral Throw so many times in the past year or two. People have been telling me, hey, make a Spectral Throw, that'd be cool, and I was always like, what's the point? It's not that good. Spectral Helix exists, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, finally got a good version put together, and it feels just incredible. That said, it does feel a bit specific. Like this time around, there's a dex stacking thing. It's not going to be super easy to get right off the bat. I do think an int stack with Hoa might be easier to make, and I do especially think Omni is going to be a very easy and potentially stronger build than this, but I chose to not do Omni specifically because nothing matters if you do Omni for a build. No achievements matter. You'll be like, okay, cool. Like, I knew I could make any build make some sort of decent damage and all that with Omni, but this was just a bit of a different approach, and it worked out better than I could have ever expected. So one other thing I wanted to address was, I don't know, people like saying that the build's glass cannon or some shit, or that it can't do wave 30 simulacrum because, or high tier simulacrums, and it's like, or that it costs too much, or just some criticisms and stuff, right? It's like, what the fuck? Like, here's a Deathless Feared, by the way, all at once. We're taking a build that no one thought existed. You look back at anything for the past few years, and it's been like, Spectral Throw is shit, it's sad that it is like this, I wish they made Spectral Throw better, sad, sad, sad. And yet, here I give you one with no Omni, with a budget of something like 30x, which in today's world is not that fucking crazy, and Spectral Throw, and it destroyed the game, and I thought it was the funnest build I'd play this league, and the best build I'd play this league, and somehow can't still manage to fucking criticize it. Like, get the fuck out. Anyway. Yeah, pretty good build, Spectral Throw, look at it go. Thing is, you could have even done something like this last league, so nothing really changed this league that made this more viable, except for mark on hit support for for Sniper's Mark, which makes some things a bit more convenient, but at the same time, self-cursing it is just as good, because it lets you have a slightly more potent one, and it lets you choose where you want to place it. So it was actually kind of relevant in the end that I started self-cursing when I was doing a Legion 5-way, because the mark on hit would apply to like a few rare mobs before the bosses, and then it wouldn't reapply on the boss instantly. So sometimes the self-curse is still a better option in any case, and that means it would have been a build that was pretty damn strong last league too. So yep, in any case, as you can see, this is like wave, 27 or some shit, and I did a full wave 30 simulacrum, tried one out, and got through to wave 30, died on wave 29 to a Kosis Omni combo, and Kosis did like a complete screen-wide attack, which I couldn't really get away from. Otherwise, it seems like a pretty decent Simulacrum build, because you freeze everything unless you have the mod that you cannot freeze things on. We do keep up Fortify with Whirling Blades at 20 stacks, and evasion's pretty good, got like 75 evasion, perma Fortify, good life gain on hit. And you could make it even better. So the claw I currently have, which is synthesized, just for that implicit, I did go ahead and make a better claw. So basically with just deafening essences of cold, and just going for the cold deck stack mod there, and then you can finish off the suffixes, because the important thing about that is we get the implicit for Imperial Claws, which ends up giving you an extra 45 life gain on hit, and that would make you basically immortal. I never actually used it on this build, but if I had that much extra life gain on hit, it would have been fucking ridiculous, and most things that aren't going to one-shot you then mean you won't be dying to them ever. But I chose not to do that because it would have been a bit too strong in the end anyway. But the option is there. So with all that, that's the Wave 30 Simulacrum. That's a whole bunch of boss killing. I do want to go over the character one more time as a guide, just so that everything's kind of clear, since the last few videos have been a bit disjointed. So here we are once again with the character, Gauntlet Soon, Pain Champ, level 96, Deadeye. End up hitting 1817 dex. I think you can go up to like maybe 2000 if you're really thinking, you know, trying to min-max that shit, but it's completely unnecessary. It's all about having a balance, like getting to 2000 dexterity and then losing, 50 ele damage or something probably isn't worth it. So you got to definitely keep that in mind. Even being something like, 1400 dexterity is completely fine if you've made up for it in other places. So once again, we are around this modifier here, the Synthesis mod of 2 to 4 cold damage per 10 dexterity. In the end, I didn't think I'd need the life gain on hit to start with, because I wanted to play Cobra Lash. In the end, absolutely, I want the life gain on hit if I'm playing Spectral Throw. It would have been a huge source of extra sustain. Likewise, if you want to fix mana and not have to worry about mana in some capacity, you could start with a Gemini Claw and then have that big amount of mana gain on hit instead. But yeah, you just grab a Hunter Claw or a Shaper Claw, preferably a Hunter Claw, and then you can just Essence spam it until you get the Dexterity roll. So in this case, it was just Cold Essences. And then fixing up the suffixes is usually just a matter of locking prefixes. Prefix cannot be changed, that is. And then using a Veiled Orb, so try and get crit or attack speed and then fill out whatever else you need to as a craft. Or you can then do prefix cannot be changed and speed reroll with the harvest until you get a good attack speed roll. That can be costly because it can hit low rolls all the time. Otherwise, something else you can do is grab a Redeemer and a Hunter Claw, get the cold damage over time modifier, something like the cold penetration modifier from Redeemer, or the hybrid cold and cold penetration modifier, and then awaken them together. As long as you get the prefixes done, you can then just finish the claw off suffix-wise pretty easily. So it's really not that hard to get a claw that's highly usable. And then, yeah, like I said, the implicit should make all the difference in the world for sustain in the end. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. We then have, deck stack gear as much as we can. So the chest, once again, the way I made it in the end, you don't have to have the exact same chest. Like missing 50 dex isn't a big deal. Missing the attack crit, not really that big a deal. Even missing the additional curse isn't that big a deal, because it's mostly for clear. Once that, against enemies, frostbite, hits against bosses, it becomes just shit anyway, so it's pretty low tier. Like, if we have a look at my POB real quick, so once again, Spectral DPS means basically nothing. It's impossible to tell what this is. It's probably something like 30 to 40 million DPS in the end, but this is just telling you what like one individual projectile hitting like once is gonna be, or some shit. I don't know, who cares? So about 11 million DPS. If we take out the frostbite for the ring, it's worth 600,000 deeps. It's like, yeah, a pretty pathetic, maybe 5 or 6% or some shit. So having the additional curse, it's just a min-max that I wanted to go for, but it's really not that important. You can just get a nice deck stack chest otherwise, and honestly, it'd be worth just getting more life on your chest as the prefix. So to not have that additional curse be a thing. So just an Elder chest would work as well. But basically, I ended up getting a Hunter Elder hybrid to smash together, and then I just chaos spammed until I got good suffixes, and then I fixed the suffixes, fixed the prefixes by doing suffix cannot change, and then cast a reroll, which guarantees the additional curse. If I could do it again, wouldn't get the additional curse. It's not that important, and you are better off getting more life in the build. Otherwise, yep, my links over here end up being Spectral Throw. I did use the Vile version, just the clean, normal version of Spectral Throw. Vile Spectral Throw is really bad, like really bad. It does basically nothing. I wouldn't recommend getting. You may as well just get a level 21 gem, and then use like a Vile Haste somewhere instead. This button's basically never worth pressing. We then have Inspiration, which helps on mana. We have Nightblade, which is the reason these builds do damage. Early damage with attacks. Awakened is just nice to have, so that you can do early reflect bullshit. Otherwise, it's a bit of extra damage. We then have Awakened Cold Pen, and it does give exposure on hit, so you don't necessarily need the exposure over here, but it's still a bit more reliable this way. And then Bone Chill. So the reason for Bone Chill is because we do actually chill things at 30% pretty much always. So enemy's going to take 30% increased damage, and then it's 15% more cold damage. So it's a pretty good support for us in the end. If you're doing more of a hybrid thing or an Omni thing, you do Trinity instead of some of this shit, and maybe like a big added cold or an added lightning instead of just pure deck stacking, etc. Otherwise, what else we got? Fractal Thoughts. So it's a pretty good helm for this type of a build if you can make it work for you all the way across the board, and we can. Ideally, I would have wanted the Spectral Throw Deceleration enchant. There was one up for sale at some point, but then it was pretty cheap. But then I didn't get it because I wasn't playing it, Spectral Throw, at the time. And then they got relisted for like 5 exalts, so fuck that guy. Spectral Throw Deceleration enchant, I think, would make it so that we hit more often with the Spectral Throw on its rotations, but anything is fine. So the only other thing I could get that was really useful, Sniper's Mark Curse Effect. Otherwise, Ancestral Protector, attack speed would be good. Some reservations, probably a bit nicer for you guys as well. But I do happen to have this shield that I started with, which is Synthesized Lacquered Buckler. Just started out with a little bit of extra reservation. It was pretty cheap to buy, and then I chaos spammed my way into this beast right here. Essentially just getting some attack speed, deck stack, bit of suppress. These boots, whatever enchant you can get on them. I just did a few labs and got this one, but penetration without killing enemies would be ideal, I think. But they are pretty important just for filling out your life on the build. Gloves I just bought that were pretty whatever, bit of dexterity, bit of resist, and crit against shocked enemies. The only real actual lightning application I have is here, and it does shock sometimes, but it's not going to shock everything. I don't know, it just doesn't meet the threshold, so it doesn't always work out, but a lot of the time it does. And then belt, synthesized dexterity, just spam it with dex essences. This is the only one you really need to use dex essences on, because you can't get dexterity on a belt otherwise. And then ended up hitting, resist and strength, and then finished off the prefixes with suffix cannot change. And then likewise over here, grabbed a % dexterity amulet. Ignore the cold damage, it hardly does anything, so the amulets are like 1x for the base, maybe. And then used a few Scorn Essences to get this in the end. It took like 2 Scorn Essences after I used a bunch of Dexterity and Chaos and all that. I then used a couple of Scorn Essences and yeah, got that. Ideally, we're looking for some extra stats here, like all stats, because it will help you fill out your Strength and Int. Otherwise, multi's kind of a luxury because we have so much through Nightblade. You can see that if your Nightblade has procced and your Elusive at its maximum, you got 760 multi in the build at the moment. So losing a bit is pretty fucking meaningless. So don't worry about the amulet too sorely. It's not a big deal. But yeah, it does help to really get the minus mana cost happening. So I have it crafted on 2 different things, and with my current mana regen, that does mean I can essentially spam my Spectral Throw. I do go a bit when attacking for an extended period and have, all my speed up. But this is definitely the way you want to be playing a Spectral Throw. Pre-firing is king, and having the ease of attack is very important. So getting that mana cost solved is pretty damn good. Otherwise, some mana gain on hit is good too. I did actually roll a couple of those. I'm not sure if I'm using it anymore though. Yeah, I am. Down here, so I just bought this thing for, I don't know, 50C or some shit, just for some mana gain on hit so that I can't go even in the thickest of boss situations. Otherwise, passive tree, I mean, it went under a few revisions, and the cluster didn't seem that necessary in the end. I mostly did a cluster just for Cobra Lash, because Cobra Lash was really wanted those medium jewels, but I kept the cluster around and just went for a feast of flesh so I could get the leech and life gain on hit. And the cluster still, it kind of sucks. I never end up finishing it or getting a better one, but it does blanketed snow and cold to the core. So 10% penetration against chill, and this is a good chunk of extra damage, so it's still worth doing, but you can get a slightly better cluster in the end. Otherwise, yeah, you take the dagger notes for elusive, you take this for a Nightblade elusive, we get a bit of life across the tree. I grabbed a Watcher's Eye with Chaos Res for Purity of Elements, and penetration with Hatred. Didn't end up divining it at all, I don't know, couldn't be fucked. But Chaos Res is the important thing here. The penetration for the Hatred isn't actually super big in the end. If you can get Vitality, Life Gain on hit instead and fit that in the build, that'd be nicer. But yeah, this does a little bit of extra damage. And then, yep, this is how I help fit auras in. So if you can't get the shield, or you can't fit all the auras in the way I have, then just take the Reservation Mastery here instead of the effect. The effect isn't that big of a deal. It almost does nothing just for some hatred, because I think I overcapped res a bit in the end. And Herald of Ice was mostly there for Cobra Lash, and it's really not necessary for Spectral Throw. It just adds a bit of damage and a bit of flare, but Spectral Throw doesn't need it for clear. It doesn't add much to that sort of table anyway. So you can still customize the build a bit, to your own need if you want. You can start running Grace, you can run Defiance Banner, you can run Determination, whatever the fuck you want really, and customize it a bit more if you'd like. But this is my version of the build, and this is what it currently looks like. And it was good enough, and I could have taken it to 97 even. I was, mapping in the highest thickness of maps, and it was pretty damn smooth, basically never dying. And yeah, glass cannon my ass. It's like a very well-rounded and good build for not that much. Like I said, if you were to put this gear together, honestly, a similar result would cost you 20 to 30x. It's not that bad in today's world, and Spectral Throw doing this level of good is just, something nice to see, isn't it? I think that's about all I need to say about the build. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, the build, and everything. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.